As the months went on, it really seemed like I was actually almost aging backwards. It was just incredible. And more importantly, my body started responding better to physical exertion. I started having more energy and I was better able to recover from exercise. Hey there, how you doing? Hope you are doing well. Today I'm going to be answering a question that I have gotten specifically from a couple people, but generally from many people. It's naturally something that comes up a lot. But the one specifically that I've been hearing lately is, what are the top 3 things that you did to recover from chronic fatigue syndrome, or ME? So I of course took this question very seriously and got to work putting together something that I thought would be truly useful, that just really covered the top 3 things that got me to where I am today, which is I consider myself completely recovered after about 10 years of living with this illness. And I spent a really long time putting together this whole outline of information for this video. And I realized when I was done that it wasn't 3 things at all. It was a really comprehensive answer to this question. It was a lot of information and something that might be useful, but it wasn't answering the question. The question was top 3 things. And I got to thinking about why people have been asking that specific question. And I think it's because sometimes, depending on where we are in our lives, in our recovery journey, what we've got going on, too much information is just too much information. It's too overwhelming. It's too much to take in. You don't even know where to start. So people are asking for 3 things so they can have only 3 things in front of them for them to consider, for them to research further and see if it's something that might have value for them as well. So I have decided to do this in 2 parts. Today will be part 1, and part 1 will be the top 3 things that I feel contributed the most significantly to my recovery. But then, because I think the fuller picture is also important, I'm going to also do a part 2, and part 2 will be a more comprehensive picture, and it will be the top 3 categories or umbrella groups of things that are what ended up allowing me to get well. And in that one, I will walk through all the specific things that I did in each category and really spell it out for you, what that looked like. So for those of you that have a thirst for a bit more information, stay tuned, because that one is coming. But for today, I will keep it simple. And today I will do just 3. And as always, all I'm doing is sharing my story. I am not saying that if you have chronic fatigue syndrome or ME, or someone you care about does, that this will work for you or for them. I don't know that it will. I don't know that it won't. All I'm doing is sharing my experience. All right, are you ready? These are what I have determined to be the MVPs, the most valuable players in my personal chronic fatigue syndrome ME recovery journey. Number 1. Now, I used to caveat this one with, you're probably not gonna like this, or some sentiment like that, because I've been assuming that this is one that people aren't going to want to hear. However, I've talked about this a bit in other videos, and I've been pleasantly surprised to hear the response from most of you, that many of you have embraced this already and have been seeing great results, or are more than willing to try it and do not have the attitude that I was expecting. So I'm going to try and move forward when it comes to this topic with a more positive attitude, and to give you more credit. Number 1 of the 3 biggest changes that I made to help me recover was when I switched my diet to a predominantly whole foods, plant-based diet. So before I made this switch, for a long time, I had been eating a meat-based diet. And when I first got really serious again about recovering from chronic fatigue syndrome, because I'd been sick for many years and kind of just coasting, I wasn't working so actively on recovery. I was more just focused on just trying to get through my life. But in about the last 2 years, I got really serious about getting well. And when I started that time, I was eating a diet that was mostly lean meats, so grilled chicken, fish, some red meat, and vegetables and fruit, and nuts and seeds. So this whole diet felt very lean to me. It felt very healthy, and I was pretty sure that this was the best fuel that I could be giving my body for recoveries. And I did start seeing some progress with my health, but it was slow. My energy levels were not picking up much. My body was really struggling with physical exertion. Post-exertional malaise was still intense. So I started thinking that this diet might not actually be the best for me, and that maybe I should start considering or researching, seeing what other options I had. And I actually really got motivated to make this change when I watched a documentary called What the Health. For whatever reason, the timing that this one came into my life, it really spoke to me. So my husband and I both together actually, within a couple days, made the switch, and we committed to sticking to a whole foods plant-based diet, so essentially a healthy vegan diet, for 3 months, just to give it a try and see how our bodies reacted. And oh my goodness, it was really just incredible. The changes I started seeing in my body, it was almost instant. Now, the more significant changes took longer, but I started seeing changes from day one. The very first night, I started sleeping better after I made this diet change, and then over time, I started noticing a lot of other changes as well. Things like my digestion got better, bloating went down, my skin improved. I had started having these little bouts of eczema that I would find on my body, and after I made this switch, that went away, and it has yet to ever come back ever since. Now, I know these sound like maybe superficial external changes, but I really do believe that what's happening on the outside is a good sign of what's happening on the inside as well. So puffiness that I had in my face started to really go down. I was having this problem that I'd wake up in the morning and my face would be really puffy. As the months went on, it really seemed like I was actually almost aging backwards. It was just incredible how much better this diet made me look. And more importantly, my body started responding better to physical exertion. I started having more energy, and I was better able to recover from exercise. Someone had asked me somewhere on Instagram, I'm gonna have to dig, I apologize, off the top of my head, I don't recall who it was, but I will find you and I'll let you know that I've answered this in this video. But you asked how long it took for my bowel movements to improve or regulate after making this diet change. So a couple of things with this. The short answer is about 2 weeks. I'd say about 2 weeks, and things were working better, more regular, just more awesome than I ever even know they could be. Sorry, not a sexy topic, I realize, but it's relatable, something that we all deal with, and I think something that we all appreciate when we see dramatic improvements in this department of our body's functioning. But the one thing that I did notice, because I made the change instantly, was that for about the first 5 days, actually bloating and gassiness and all that stuff got so much worse. And I've read a zillion times that this is normal. It's just our bodies aren't, because of the meat-based diet that we're eating, we're not used to getting this much fiber. So it takes a while for your body to adjust. So after about that 5 days, though, everything went back to normal, and then from normal went to way better than normal. It just kept getting better and better and better. And I think the most surprising for me, and a lot of you have told me the same thing about when you've also made this switch, is that it was so much easier than I thought it was going to be. I thought I was doing this massive thing. I thought I was making this huge sacrifice for my health. I was doing something dramatic, like, okay, here we go, I can do this. 3 months of no animal products. I thought it was going to feel like a whole bunch of sacrifices, and that food was going to be boring and repetitive and not satisfying, but it was completely the opposite. I can't believe how Almost instantly I got used to this new way of eating, and very quickly I grew to prefer it. And my husband and I still eat this way today. Right now we do about 95% whole food plant-based diet, so we leave a little bit of wiggle room only for when we eat out or if we go to eat at friends' places, just so that things aren't too difficult. But when we're at home, all we cook is healthy vegan food, and we both just really enjoy it. So if this is something that you are considering, in my experience, it's a really easy change to make. I think most of us think it's going to be drastic and restrictive and awful. But in my experience, and like a lot of you have told me, it's really not. Not even to mention all the ethical implications with all of this. I'm just focusing on health right now and chronic fatigue syndrome recovery, but obviously this is way better for the environment. And our farming practices these days are not, for the most part, as I understand it, as they should be. The cruelty to animals is just really heartbreaking. So aside from the personal health benefits, I get to feel good that I'm also, helping out all the animals out there, and I am helping out the environment, which is a really great thing. So if you're new to this and you want to give it a try, and you and your doctor think that this might be something that might be right for you, I know sometimes in the beginning it can feel a bit intimidating. I think we overthink it a bit. I know I did. Like, what am I going to cook? I don't understand what I'm going to make to eat every day. I think that's normal. But you can check out my Pinterest page if you like, because over the last however long, I've been working really hard to collect whole food plant-based recipes. So I've got over 200 carefully organized whole food plant-based meals, snacks, and various recipe ideas. I'll put a link in the video description if you want to check that out and just cruise some of the recipes and see if there's something there that might be interesting for you. The second of the three things that were the MVPs in my recovery program, in no particular order, was when I started practicing some intermittent and periodic fasting. There are some great resources out there that talk about the benefits of fasting, and I've mentioned some of these in videos before. One of them is the book by Dan Buettner called The Blue Zone Solution, and in this book, his general thing is that he goes out to the communities in the world who live the longest, who generally are the healthiest, and he and his team study the commonalities between them. And one of the things that they found is that amongst the longest lived communities in the world, fasting, whether by circumstance or choice, is something that you find in the vast majority of these communities. There's another documentary out there called Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead, which I also found really interesting, and it shows some case examples of some of the health benefits that people have seen from incorporating fasting into their life. Overall, what all of this is about, this intermittent or periodic juice fasting, is about giving your body some breaks from solid food. I've come to appreciate that it's a lot of energy for our bodies to have to deal with the digestion and elimination of solid food. So when we give it some breaks from that, it can focus its energy on other things, like healing. Let me start with intermittent fasting, because this is one that I actually do effortlessly and I do not find difficult at all. So let's start with that one. So what intermittent fasting looks like for me, I did this trying out most of my 2 years where I got really serious about my chronic fatigue syndrome recovery, and I still do it to this day, every single day. So intermittent fasting just means that you choose certain hours during the day where you eat solid food, and then outside of those hours, you don't eat any solid food. So currently what this looks like for me is that I have breakfast every day at 10 o'clock in the morning, and then I have dinner by 6 p.m. And then I have lunch somewhere in the middle, usually around 2 o'clock. So outside of 10 and 6, before and after that time, I don't eat any solid food. I still have healthy beverages, that is fine, just no solid food. So this gives me about an 8-hour window in which I eat, and then a 16-hour window that my body gets a break every single day for it to focus on other things other than just dealing with all the food I'm shoving inside of it. When I was really in the throes of my recovery from this illness, I played around with shortening the hours that I ate solid food. So I might, eat every day at noon and then have dinner by 5, meaning I only had a 5-hour window every day that I consumed food, and 19 hours every day that my body got a break. So this really is going to be an individual thing. I don't know if this is going to be good for you. I don't know if this is going to be healthy or helpful for you, but for me, it's been a game changer. And I'm so, so glad that I started doing this. Now this one, I'm gonna be real with you, unlike making the switch to the plant-based diet, which was just a breeze, which improved every area of my life and made it more enjoyable, periodic fasting is not something I particularly love. So juice fasting, what I mean by that is what I do is I take a chunk of time, typically anywhere between 1 and 3 days, and during that time I consume nothing but low glycemic vegetable juice. So I have a juicer, I buy a ton of vegetables, I make a huge batch of vegetable juice in the morning. I'll put one piece of fruit in, like an apple, for example, just to give it a little bit of sweetness, or maybe lemon or lime. And then I just drink from that big jug all day long, and that's all that I consume. Now, I don't love it. It's not super fun. I am hungry. Yes, very hungry. My energy levels are even lower. It's just not a super exciting thing to do. But I also don't love scrubbing my toilets or changing the oil in my car, but I know that I need to do these things to take care of these things. So I think of it the same with my body. There is some maintenance that I do to help it run as efficiently as it can. And the third MVP in my recovery program, and this is something that I definitely put out there with a huge caution warning, was a very gradual exercise program. For years, I tried to exercise and it really didn't go well. For the most part, it always left me feeling much, much worse. My health would crash big time. It didn't seem to matter how little I did. I always felt so much worse afterwards, and it just really felt impossible. But I had seen over the years, especially with, I don't know if you've seen any of my recovery story videos, but I have the one where I talk about where I was, partially recovered and I started getting into some scuba diving. And even though overall too much scuba diving was just way too hard on my body, in small doses, when I could do it when I felt up to it, I found that small amount of physical activity was slowly making me stronger. So it was the first time I really saw that exercise had the potential to help me. So in those last couple of years, when I got serious about getting well and I really buckled down, exercise was a big focus of that program. And I started very small. So if you want to picture what my exercise regimen looked like when I first got started, and for the first quite a few months, picture if you were designing an exercise program for maybe someone in their hundreds, like well into their hundreds, and maybe not even super sprightly. Or maybe you're designing an exercise program for someone who's about 11 months pregnant. Picture that kind of exercise program, and then still probably dial it back by about 50 or 100. I just started so small. I did 1 or 2 minutes a day. Quite often I couldn't even manage that every single day. I had to do it every second day. And I just did things at home. Like I would just get up and do some gentle squats in my living room, or maybe some push-ups off my kitchen counter or off my knees if I could manage it. Just body weight movement, really light, really gentle, and not for very long. But over time, I found that I could start increasing it. So it would go from 1 or 2 minutes per day to 3 minutes per day, 4 minutes per day. And as the months passed, I was getting up to 10 minutes per day, 15 minutes per day. And then I was actually going to the gym for these 15-minute workouts, and I was using weights. I'd use just the 2-pound or 1 kilogram weights that the gym had, just really extremely light. And even in my weakened, sick condition, they actually felt too light for me. I'm just lifting this little weight. Like, what could this possibly be doing? but it was helping. And every time my ego took over and I got impatient and I tried to do more, maybe a heavier weight or do longer, I would crash every time. So in time, I learned to stick with the really light movement and only really slow increases over time. And within a year, I'd say I was probably doing hour-long workouts at the gym that were moderate in intensity. And within 2 years, I could work out 6 days a week, any intensity that I liked. So I've done other videos about exercise that really go into detail about what that looked like. So I will put the links to all of those, here on the screen in the video description. If you're interested in learning more, I encourage you to check them out. There was a lot that I had to do to support my body. It wasn't just quite as so simple as doing a little bit of exercise, increasing it. There were things that I had to do to help my body recover, and there were certain types of exercise that I found worked better than others. If you can check out those videos if you want to hear all about that. All right, so there you go. There's my top 3. These 3 were incredibly important, but I've also left out some really important stuff. So I would encourage you to check back in and take a look at part 2 of this video if you want to see a bigger picture, more comprehensive picture of what my recovery program looked like. And as always, if you have suggestions for me for future videos, questions, comments, please let me know, because I take it all very seriously and I use that to decide what videos to make next. So I love hearing from you, and I just love chatting with you guys and getting to know all of you slowly. So please reach out here. On Instagram, Facebook, I'm there every day. I'm Raelan Agle on Facebook, Raelan.Agle on Instagram. I'd love to chat with you. If we're not already friends and chatting all the time, let's fix that right now. Reach out, say hello. I'd love to talk to you. I am here always. Let me know how I can help. And if you've enjoyed this video and my videos in general, please hit that like button. Please hit subscribe if you haven't already. What are you waiting for? And the little gray bell will make sure you get notifications for when future videos come out. But not only does this make sure that you're getting this information, it also makes the YouTube algorithms happy. And by hitting like and subscribe, it puts my video into the hands of more people who might need it. So thank you for that. And that's all for today. So I hope you are out there taking care of yourself. You are doing your best to be healthy and happy and connected. And I will see you in the next video. Take care, everyone.